Hello,
Hello.
welcome. Welcome to Everyday Ordinary Extraordinary Women. I'm Martina and I'm here with Christina. Christina, do you want to say hi?
Hello, everybody.
And we were inspired to create this podcast after pondering this question. What would the world look like where we can be inspired by every person? So usually we're very quick to compare and judge ourselves and others. And when we do that, everybody is losing. So depending on our point of view, I can either feel small because I come out lacking, or I can be arrogant and dismissive because I feel superior. And those are the only two options. And neither of those options actually make us feel good. So here's our thought. Someone's everyday normal is someone else's extraordinary. Judgment comes from first impressions, and we invite you, the listener, to go beyond first impressions and see the magic everywhere. There's inspiration at every corner, in everyone, if we're willing to look. And today we're here with Wiebke. Wiebke, do you want to quickly say hello and then I say more about you?
Yeah, thank you for the invitation, Martina and Christina. And you pronounced Wiebke really perfectly. I mean, it's a Nordic name. It comes from a Germanic goddess. And you, on the other side of the ocean, you just pronounce it perfectly. Thank you so much for being here. And
Thank you.
I wrote you already that I find it intriguing, and I find it some kind of piecework, what you just shared about being open to see the inspiration in every person we meet. Because for me, that means we don't come from the little me, the ego, that says, I have to make something extraordinary by myself, and then, my life will be good. Instead, I believe that life will be good for ourselves and for others when we rather come from our whole beingness as a human being rather than a human doing, and see that it's about co-creation. It's about respect for ourselves and others.
Beautiful. Yes, absolutely. And in every moment, right? It's really, that's where peace lives, right? When we all can come to this place. Now, let me just quickly say something about who you are, right? So our listeners know who you are. You've been a single mom, right? You're a single mom, and you've been looking for ways. I assume you're a lifelong learner, like Christina and I, to find a way to a happier and healthier life in our day and age, which sometimes can be a little challenging, right? And you're a life coach, you're a business coach, and you support people. Oh, and there's a cat walking right in front of you. And you support people to kind of find their way back to themselves and also be in tune with nature, which we all really need, right? Is there anything else you want to say about yourself that I missed here?
Yeah, maybe, I mean, you said the important things, and what comes to mind is I have studied ecology at university many years or even decades ago now, because I've always been in love with the outdoors, with nature, or also with my pets, So for me, ecology is more than the economy of nature, how it would be defined in the scientific world, So how many liters or milliliters of rain fall somewhere, and what kind of plants can grow then. But nature is so much more. And I think everybody listening who has a pet or who feeds the birds in their garden or the squirrels knows this feeling that needs no proof, that the other beings, the other feeling beings, the other sentient beings have a psyche, have a soul too, just like us. So I'm fascinated by connecting to our true inner nature, to what we are apart from how our culture taught us or even deformed us or domesticated us. That's what I'm fascinated about. And also, how are we connected to nature even on the concrete ground of a backyard in one of the biggest cities of the world? And how is it to be there and maybe to look up and see a little tiny bit of the blue sky or of the gray sky and feel, hey, this is all alive. I'm a part of nature, even if I'm in the middle of a big city.
Mm. Oh, I forgot to say you're from Germany.
Yes.
From Stuttgart. So one of the things inside of what you were saying, one of the things that fascinates me, it makes me always so happy is, you know, when there's concrete, when there's sidewalks and there's the little flower growing.
Yes.
That's just, for me, that's the best. It's just like, yes, you know, nature is resilient. We can do whatever, not whatever we want, but we can do whatever we want and it will survive, right? That doesn't mean that we shouldn't take care of Mother Nature, but Mother Earth, but still, it just makes me so happy. Now, Wiebke, if we really knew me, what would we know about you?
You would know that I'm always changing. I mean, we all are, right? Our body changes every second. And what I like to say when I teach breath work is, with every breath in, we accelerate our heartbeat. And with the out breath, we calm down the heartbeat. So there's change going on in every split second in our inside, in our biology, in our psyche, and everything. And I think I'm extreme in how always my life changes and I transform continuously. And I remember decades ago in my 20s when I met Sun Bear, a Native American who came several times to Germany to teach, because he had a vision about teaching all over the world to help people connect to their own true inner nature and outer nature, and then protect our ecosystems and be kind to ourselves. That was part of his vision. And we were sitting in a circle. He was talking about the astrology of his nation, the astrological tradition of his nation. And he got to know that I'm a flicker. That will be Cancer in the European and Western astrology, and it's flicker in his nation. And he looked at me a bit shocked, and then he said, well, what you will experience in your life will be very fast growth. So you need a lot of trust. And I remember him looking at me kind of a bit of in shock. And I now, at age nearly 55, I understand why he might have been shocked, because there has been so much change in my life and also hardship. I mean, many other people will have just as much hardship in their lives, but it was a lot, and it still is a lot in a very short amount of time. So change, and to invent myself always again and again. Like what you said about nature, growing a dandelion in a creep, in a little place in the asphalt. That's something that I do again and again and again, just not to give up, but to say, okay, now everything is different. How can we reinvent ourselves right now? Yeah.
It's so beautiful, right? Because that's exactly what happens in nature too, right? Like everything's always changing and transforming and evolving. And of course, that's how our lives should look too. But we're so, as humans, kind of stuck in this like box of our identity, right? And it changes really hard for many people. But when you can really see that we're kind of just this little piece of the cosmos, right? And then why wouldn't we just want to flow through it like everything else, right? Like there's so much inspiration around us. But I think there's a good time for us to switch to a different gear and let's talk about something funny or silly or embarrassing that's happened in your life.
I didn't have so much time to think about that. So And that's strange because I embrace moments of embarrassment. But what just came to mind was my cat when he wanders on the board of my laptop and then creates some different kinds of words, or he cancels something I have done beforehand, you know. Maybe during our talk I will remember something embarrassing or hilarious what happened. It just have been months for me that have been really hard and really tough. So maybe that's why my brain is not so much wired to the funny things right now. If you permit, I would like to refer to what you just said, Christina, that we all are confronted with so much change. And in this century where new wars have begun, and the world order is changing, and the way how we learn, and the digital world and artificial intelligence, so many things are coming up in at such speed.
Short of time. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the basic question for all of us is, where is refuge? What can we relate to when life gets rough? Where can we find a sense of calm, peace, safety, security, if the outer world is so unstable and ever-changing? And I spoke about that with friends again and again in the last decades. And I think it comes back to a very fundamental question every human being is confronted with, I think, in their life. That is this basically a good universe? Is it benevolent, or is it bad? Or is it just an accident? You know, the Big Bang, like a big accident, and everything is just, you can do whatever you want, it just doesn't matter. And there's also no refuge, no safety, no nothing, right? I think when we answer that question for ourselves, we have a really fundamental guidance, and we can then decide, does it make sense to meditate, for example, to calm and to get closer to our true inner nature instead? If our answer is, universe can't be trusted, and we ourselves, our souls or our psyche can't be trusted, then we need other measures, right? We need an outer concept or structure that we agree to and that will save us. I instead believe, because I've experienced it again and again in miracle after miracle after miracle, that this is a benevolent universe, and that even when I experienced terrible things, and just to give you one example, I have been growing up in a household with domestic violence, and I remember at least 8 years until I was 15 and my brother was 13, that we have been beaten and we have been have experienced this domestic violence. So that has been terrifying, and I've woken up for decades every morning in panic, in a diffused panic of, oh my gosh, something terrible is going to happen. And then I arrive in my day and I say, okay, my bed, my bedroom, okay. And then I somehow bring myself in a good space and go into my day, right? So that just so people, you two beautiful ladies, and also our listeners, our audience know, when I say that I have come to believe this is a benevolent universe, it's not because I don't see that there are difficult things and there are happening terrible things also to children. I see that. And still I have experienced the basic goodness in human beings, and also in my parents who have been victims of the Second World War as children, you know. And I'm very close to my parents now, and we speak about what has happened, and we try to heal what has happened and to forgive, and, you know. So yeah, that's what just came to mind.
So many good points there, but I love this last piece where you're talking about, talking with your parents about what happened, and having being able to see it from their perspective now as an adult, instead of as a child, right? Of course you're a child and you're not safe. Like, that's a terrible feeling to have. But to be able to step back as an adult and be like, wow, my parents weren't safe either. They never felt safe. And how could they create a space where I felt safe if they grew up in a war-torn and didn't feel safe themselves? Like, that's a great gift to be able to give yourself and to give your parents, to be able to step back and heal that and do better for your children then, right? Because you've given yourself the space to heal. So yeah. And what courage it takes to be able to see that and have those conversations. It's like, it's big work. So I'm sure there's other work that you had to do to get to that point too.
And you know, the other part about, you know, like, is life happening for you or to you, right?
Mhm.
It's really like, it's so fascinating. And depending on where we stand, if life happens to you, then it's miserable and heavy and whatever. And if life happens for you, there's the gold nuggets everywhere. But it's just a choice and the perspective to look from for wherever we go and however we go. So it's beautiful. And but you started talking a little bit, and I just want to go deeper into that. It's like, what fills you up, right? You kind of alluded a little bit to that. So what fills you up? How do you fill your tank?
Yeah, I can refer to what I just described, that I'm quite close to my parents and I visit them. And I also want to the other people who have difficulties with the family that they have been born into, you know, that I couldn't heal all that by age 55. And I've done a lot of coaching and therapy and self-coaching and spiritual work and loads, tons of, since I was 19, even earlier. So when I visit my parents, my nervous system gets unstable, sometimes already a few days beforehand, and when I drive there, and when I'm there. So one of the things that I've discovered, two things that helped me since I've become a Wim Hof instructor. So I work with deliberate cold exposure and breath work. That is, in the car driving there, I can do calming breath work. And because our biochemistry, our autonomous nervous system, it can't choose to react to how we breathe. It has to, you know, that's like, it's physics, it's chemistry, it just happens. So it's also a nice feeling that I can do something about my autonomous nervous system getting nervous and anxious. I can calm it within 5 minutes or 10 minutes with my breath. So that's something I do. And what fills me up, breathing, really different breathwork techniques. For example, in the morning, I love to do the intense Wim Hof method breathing, which many people don't use like that. Not even in the Wim Hof Academy. When I asked the instructors there, do you also do meditation in the breath hold? You know, when you hold your breath for longer than a minute? And they were like, no. And I said, well, I do that all the time. You know, I use the breathing in for and breathing out for I am affirmations, like I am regenerating, or I am loving, you know, in breath, I am, out breath, loving. And I put in those adjectives that I might need on that specific day. And in the breath hold, in the morning, I often will lean into this space where there's no thought, to understand what is important for me to know today. What inspirations come in, like, you know, Oprah Winfrey, who asks every day, God, where do you want me to go? To whom do you want me to talk? What do you want me to say? I do that in the breath hold of the Wim Hof breathing, you know? Okay, so that fills me up. And when I come back from my parents, there is this beautiful Lake Constance close to their home. I sometimes take a cold dip in Lake Constance. And that's a strong reset. It's a strong reset for the nervous system, because it has you not think anymore when you go into the cold water. And then you go into this natural body of water. You see those mountains, you see the forest, even in winter. You hear the birds on the water. And it's just having a dip in your true nature, in the power of your body and your psyche to reset within minutes. And then I drive home in a completely different, peaceful, happy, naturally dopamine fired state. So yeah, we are very powerful to deal with difficult situations as human beings.
What I love about what you said is it's not that easy as saying, just get over it, right? Because our nervous system keeps staying, like, even though it's 20 or 30 or 40 years ago, our nervous system is still on high alert, right? And so it's learning how to work with it and how to soothe it, and maybe even work that, because it's all stored in our body, right? Help it work out of our body rather than just with our head trying to figure it out, which is we often are so disconnected, like the body and the head, right? And that's beautiful that you're talking about that, because it's really like it's all stored in our body, right? That's where the nervous system is like, oh, okay, something's coming. So
Yeah, and I think a lot of people can relate to that feeling of anxiety before going to do things like visiting family or maybe participating in certain events. That anxiety where you know how it's going to go ahead of time and you already start. It made me think of I know you said you had a pranic healing session earlier. It made me think of pranic healing, where you actually picture the people in front of you and you picture clearing their energetic field. You could even picture the house and you clear the energetic field. So it's like you're doing the work ahead of yourself, right? Like before you get there, you're clearing the energy field of the home, them, and then you do your breath work in the car. It'll be a whole different experience when you get there.
That's amazing what you just said, Christina. And I think what you just said and touched is universal. Whoever is listening to us now, if they are Christian or Jewish or Native American, Indigenous, whatever, or agnostic, it's such a gem of people like you, obviously, and I, and Martina, maybe, when you have been working in the field of psychology, coaching, and all that healing, you see it's not so much about healing after what something has already happened. It's much more about getting ahead of it and creating a lifestyle with habits that help you to not wait until something has already started burning, but to have this good lifestyle that builds a good foundation every day, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I like to call it tools in my toolbox, right? Like, so I can just pull from them, right? So I'm feeling a little anxious. Maybe I'm going to pick a amazonite stone to help keep me calm. Maybe it's my breath work. And if it's anxiety about going to deal with someone, I'm going to picture them in front of me. I'm going to energize the chakras in my hand, and I'm going to use my little healing tools to clear that energy. So I just know I've done the work and the path is now clear. And we could do that for anything, right? Like it's not a practice most of us are taught. And so just something you get to play with.
But here's what I want to say, Christina, though. It takes effort.
Okay.
Right? It's very simple, but it's not always easy, because it takes effort. It really takes to put our mind to create those daily habits, but then to stick to the daily habits, because we're lazy, right? It's it takes
absolutely
effort.
But
so I just wanted
that's
to...
why we're here. That's why we're here, right? Like, because we're all human. We're all human. We're all going to get triggered by things. We know this, right? So, what are the things that you can use to help you take the power back?
May I say something in regard?
Yeah, go.
My brand at the moment is called, around my name, Wiebke Dirks, but it was for years Change Guide, because I'm so interested in how do you create positive changes in your life. And I agree with you, Martina. It can be the hardest thing to change our lifestyle. And many people, what they do to then to themselves when they try to change something. I mean, New Year's resolutions, right? In January, the fitness studio, they are full packed with people, and it takes just 5 or 6 weeks, and that has already changed. So what I want to say to people is, it's your nervous system, it's your mammal, your condition as a mammal that is opposed to change. And it has, our mammal system has a good intention with it. It wants to automize things so that we have our mind free and our attention and our creativity to do new things. So it automizes things like, I don't know, brushing your teeth. You get to know a person and you see, okay, I've had bad experiences with that person. So automatically when we see them, we will try to avoid them. Like, you know, a wild tiger or something we used to meet in a forest of 1,000 years ago. So we have to know that our system tries to protect us from change, even when we want to quit smoking or drink less alcohol. Our system will be opposed to that. It wants to stick with what we usually do. So what we can do now is we can decide very well. We can make a very conscious and instinctive decision. Is there one little thing that I can change in my life which would make really a difference? And for me, last December, intuitively, my intuition told me it's to get a cat again. And I was very surprised because the cat is also work. You have to take care of her or him. But I trusted my instinct. And I have this cat now. I've saved a cat. And I see now what it does to my nervous system in this period of change, because he calms me a lot and he's so sweet and it's just a gift, you know. So what I do again and again in my life is to make an intuitive, instinctive decision about one little change in my life. And then I follow through for 21 days, because there's research on that within 20 days, doing something every day and something small, just one thing, not too many things, you can teach your system that something becomes the new normal. And after 21 days, not with my cat, he won't go away, but with other things like cold showers, you can then evaluate after 21 days, what was the impact on my life? Was it good or not good? Is it worth it? And then decide to go another 3 or 4 weeks. And when you have done that after 2 months, more or less, there's also research on that, it will have very much become your new lifestyle, and your system, your autonomous nervous system, will have accepted it. So that's a kind way to approach change, and not to judge ourselves because change is difficult for us, because it's difficult for anybody. What do you think about that?
And I love the idea of small changes, right? It's always like the baby steps and be gentle, baby steps and be gentle, baby steps and be gentle. So I'm yeah, it's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, Christina. Sorry, I cut you off.
No, exactly the same. So, all right, Wiebke, what would you say your superpower is?
I had made some notes about possible questions that could come up, especially because I have been in the field of biohacking and I've written about superpowers. So I wrote down my ability to change, but we talked about that already. And what came up right now was what a former manager of a company I used to work for, what he told me is he found it extraordinary, my capacity to forgive. And he's right, because one aspect is that when we don't forgive, the poison circulates in our own blood system, right? In our own psyche. That's one thing. So it's self-love. Part of it is self-love, to forgive other people. And I also believe it's an agent for peace, forgiveness. And I don't find that easy. I have found a lot of ways how one can do that and tools and everything. And I think the most important thing is to understand what an impact that has on ourselves if we don't forgive. How it binds us to our past or to other people who maybe aren't even anymore in our life, or even dead, like our grandparents or great-grandparents or whatever. And also it's not easy because you can have limiting beliefs. For example, I had the limiting belief when I fully forgive, for example, my mom for what she did when I was a kid, that she didn't protect me from, and my brother from the domestic violence. If I fully forgive her, this can happen again. Like as if I'm fully open to that person then again, unconscious and not able to defend myself if something dangerous comes my way again. And that I see also with coachees of mine. I see that we have to dig deep to see what keeps me from practicing forgiveness, or whatever we want to practice. Maybe we want to be better at change or whatever it is. And I find it so valuable to see then what keeps me from doing that. What am I scared of? What could happen? And then to look into that deeper.
Yeah. So good.
So, Wiebke, what made you who you are today? Like, what was your biggest lesson, or what took most courage, or when did you stand up for something that mattered? And it might be all the same, it might be something different. You can pick one, or you can answer all, however you want to go about it.
It's various things. It's also like with the oyster, you know, only the oyster that gets hurt will build a pearl, because the perlmutter, I don't know if that's the right English word, but yeah, the gloss gets built around the little particle that hurts the oyster. So I would say the hurtful things in my childhood were part of it, and hurtful things or difficult things that happened later in life, challenges. But the most important thing I would say is nature, living nature. For example, in my childhood in the Black Forest region, I would go out every day into the forests, and I would feel belonging, held. I felt the peace. I felt not judged out in nature. Now the University of Freiburg, they have done research on this feeling of not being judged in nature, which is so beneficial for us. And I felt that as a kid. And when I then moved to Italy, I've been living in Italy for more than 8 years. And my son is also born in Italy. In the first years, I didn't feel as I belonged there because I was so different. The culture between Germany and Italy is much more different than I imagined beforehand. So I would sit on our balcony with my little son, and there were these olive trees in the evening, and little bugs that shine. I don't know what that is in English. Do you know what I mean? They're like little lanterns, little insects.
Lightning bugs.
Yes.
We call them lightning bugs.
Yes.
Lightning bugs. Yeah, Glühwürmchen in German.
Yeah.
Lightning bugs. And we would watch those lightning bugs in this olive grove. And I would sit there with my little son and allow him to stay up a bit longer. And it was magical. It was like Lord of the Rings, I don't know, Hobbit town experience. So wherever I went in the world, I could always feel at home and safe and belonging when I connected to nature. So the credit goes to nature, including other wonderful human beings like you too.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Right back at you. Right back at you. So, Wiebke, if you had a magic wand and could give people any quality, what would it be and why?
You mean one most important quality to every human being right now in human Earth?
Yep.
It can be more than one if you want to. We've had people say, I do really want that. So just, you know, if you had a magic wand, right? The fairy godmother.
It's something very ancient and surprising, because there's one story that I learned in the Bible, because I grew up in a very fundamentalistic evangelical Christian household. So we read the Bible a lot. And there was this story of Abraham in the Old Testament, I think, where he was asked to slaughter his own son. And that was the story in the Bible I hated most as a kid and a young girl. I found it just cruel. And later on, I found it a proof that I don't want to be a Christian, and the Bible is just, I can't deal with that, right? And I see this now, the wisdom in that I see now at age nearly 55 is when we have a connection to our inner soul and to a greater power, whatever it be, if you're connecting to Jesus as a Christian, or you're Jewish, or you're connecting to the goddess who created this all, you know, whatever. You have this inner central life connection, which for me is located in the region of my heart. Then you can distinguish wrong from true. You can distinguish, will this, what I'm thinking about doing, will this hurt another being, or will it not hurt? Is it loving? Is it kind, or is it not? We have this living navigation system inside of us. So if there would be one quality I would like to give as a Christmas gift to everyone, it would be the path to how to connect to this divine portal inside of my heart, to then be connected to the life force itself, and also to a compass to know what to do and when to do it.
Yummy.
Delicious. Yeah.
I'm like, okay, what do we say to that? Really, nothing. Yummy.
Like, yes, we all want that. Absolutely.
You know, it's like I listen to you and I'm like, yes, like the universe, divinity within ourselves, we're part of the whole. Like that's what I hear in what you're saying, right? When we are present to that, right? We are part of the whole. We're important. We're, you know, we're divine and human and all of it. That's what I hear in what you're saying, like that just connection to universe, or, you know, source, or beautiful. Thank you. So Wiebke, tell us about the time when you took a chance for love. And it might not be romantic love. It might be romantic love. When did you take a chance for love?
I remember the most, an important relationship was the relationship to the father of my son, who is Italian. And I met him when I was had just been in Italy for a few weeks, and I was on the career path. I just had been offered the position of the CEO of a new founded company in Germany. And I said, no, I'm not interested. I want to do bigger things. I want to live abroad for a period of time and do really fun and interesting things abroad. And just a few weeks after arriving in Italy, maybe 4 weeks, I met the later father of my son at a birthday party. And he put everything into getting to know me and convincing me that he wants me to be his future wife and everything. And it was just nearly irresistible, this man. And it changed my life so much because I wouldn't stay with him for a very long time because the cultural differences were so huge, and on our view on life and everything. And because I didn't speak very well Italian in the first 2 years, we just fell in love, but we didn't really understand who the other person was. It's a bit tricky. But what happened then was I got to know his family very well, which is very different from my family of origin. People who went to school only until 3rd grade elementary school back then. And the Italian grandmother of my son, she used to do her laundry at the river when she was a teenage girl. And she told me how cold her hands would get in winter, and that was really terrible. And his granddad told us that they didn't have enough food to eat 3 times a day. They ate just twice. And sometimes for months, they would just eat onions and beans and bread. And that's it for breakfast and for dinner. Instead, my dad, he used to be a professor at a German academy, and my mother was already had an academic education. My dad did. He spoke English fluently. He spoke Italian. So there was a very different background of our families. And my family was German, and this family was from a rural Italian region. And I learned so much in those years, so much tolerance and respect for other cultures, and so much understanding for people who come from somewhere else, from a different background, and so look out into the world with different glasses. And that's so valuable. That's so valuable now back in Germany, that I have this other cultural background. And I used to say, I mean, when I hear people speak Italian in my village around here, and there's a huge Italian population, luckily, my heart just opens, and I just get happy when I hear people like, "Ciao Vicky, come stai?" at the bakery, you know? And that is because giving birth to a child from an Italian father in Italy, in the city of Recanati, where the Divine Comedy stems from. You know, Dante Alighieri is from the same little town in Italy where my son was born, you know? So it just happened so that my heart became half German and half Italian, or I don't know if it's 50-50%, but there is a part of my heart which is now Italian. I have two nations now. So yeah, that had a big impact on my life.
So beautiful.
It,
So beautiful.
it reminds me, you know, listening to you makes me understand a little bit more about me, right? So I grew up in Argentina, and I lived, like, my parents are Swiss, so we moved to Switzerland when I was 10, and I've been in the US for, I don't know, Christina, do you know? Almost 30 years now,
Almost
right?
30
So,
years.
yeah. So it's like that opening of your heart, right? When you're exposed to something different, is like, yeah, I totally get it, right? I hear people speak Swiss German. I'm like, okay, or talk about Switzerland or about Argentina or speak Spanish, or, you know, like it's just like it's really so part of who I am, which is just really precious to hear. And I never put it together that way. So thank you for that. I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you.
And you know what I think, Martina, that the globalization, the fact that people are traveling around the world and start to live in places where they are not born, more than ever, maybe in human history, that's a possibility for peace, because people who have been living abroad usually develop a broader horizon and idea about life. And at the same time, I want to honor the culture of the regions in the world. For example, I'm reading a book now by a woman who lives in the Appalachian Mountains in the US. And that's stirring such a love and appreciation inside of me for this region in the world. And I agree with a German researcher. She's I think an anthropologist, if I'm not wrong, Heide Göttner-Abendroth. And she's been doing a lot of research on pre-patriarchal cultures who didn't live in constant war, but they created prosperity without dominating one another. And she says the solution for the world's problems is that we honor the regions again, the culture of the regions of the earth, which have a similar culture. Like Bavaria in Germany has its own culture. And many Bavarians, I mean, they call themselves Freistaat Bayern, which means Free State of Bavaria, because many Bavarians, they would love to have their own country, just like the Scottish want to be independent.
Or the Catalonians, right? They want to break from Spain. So,
right.
Or the Basque, or the Texans, or the, you know, you name it. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's actually powerful what you're saying, because it's like all of that like the culture gets lost when we have the globalization, right? And there's a Starbucks or McDonald's or whatever in every last corner of the world, which, you know, it's the change that is necessary. And at the same time, there's a sadness because part of the local culture gets lost, right?
Yes.
In that globalization. So
I can imagine that there is possible another kind of globalization when there goes more power back to the regions in the world, like in a federation of regions, honoring the value of the regional cultures in the US, in South America, in Europe, a Europe of regions. That is the thing that politically I believe in. And when my son was little and I brought him from Italy into another region in Germany where I hadn't lived before, in southern Germany, the Swabians, you know, they spoke a strong dialect. I would read him. No, the Schwarzwald is Alemannisch. That's
okay.
another, there has been another nation in former times, and they speak a different dialect in the Schwarzwald, which is quite similar, a bit similar to the Swiss dialect. Instead, in the region around Stuttgart, they speak the Swabian dialect. And I used to read books for him in the Swabian dialect, funny stories, to have him get this into his ear. Because if we don't practice the regional dialects, they will die within 1 or 2 generations.
Yeah. My grandmother was from Sciacca in Sicily, and she spoke with a real dialect. And when she would go back to Italy to visit, everyone would be like, "Oh, talk to me. My grandmother talked like you."
Allora, tu parli italiano, Cristina? Possiamo parlare anche in Italiano? Un
poco l'italiano.
Yeah, and also the dialects in Italy are very, very strong. And when I landed in Italy in Le Marche region, which is close to Ancona and the region where the Renaissance started in Italy, my landlady, an old farmer, she spoke to me. And the first 6 months, I would just nod and smile because I wouldn't understand a single word. And the dialect is really different from Italian. For example, in Italian, you would say, lo puoi buttare giù la scarpata. That means you can throw this piece of garbage down there, the slope. And in Marchigiano, it's buttalo giù lo jemite. So it's not scarpata, it's jemite. It's a whole different word. So I was totally lost learning Italian and parallel learning Marchigiano.
Yeah.
Definitely a growth spurt. Like I know, like the Ticinese is a language on its own, right? It's like there is the Italian and then there's the Ticinese. So it's like totally a language on its own.
And the culture around the chestnuts, right? The chestnut trees, which they are reviving, by the way, and in the Appalachian Mountains, there have been huge forests with chestnut trees that were cultivated in a permaculture style by Native American nations. So there were edible forests in the US and in the Ticino, in the Italian Swiss region. And in Italian Swiss regions, they are starting to rebuild this culture around the chestnut. It's really cool.
So cool. I love it. All right. Last question. What do you want people to remember about you?
I would love it if they would feel inspired, if I could spark some hope in them that even if you go through the hardest things in life, you can find refuge inside of your own alive soul and connection to the divine, and that you can belong to nature wherever you are on the planet and feel a sense of belonging with nature and with other human beings, with animals, plants, Mother Earth, wherever you are.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So Wiebke, I know you have a business, you're a coach. Would you like to tell people about your business and how they can reach you if they're interested in working with you?
Yeah, maybe I don't know if I have sent you the links already. I have
And we'll excuse me, we will include links with this, so they'll be able to find it.
Okay, so what I'm starting to bring into life is a YouTube channel. Also with the intention to offer free content of wisdom and inspiration and practical tips, practical things for everyday's life and how to connect to nature in ways that in part I have learned from Native Americans. Then I have an Instagram account, and that is the most alive thing at the moment, how I connect with the world on the public level, you know, that's the most up-to-date stuff which people can find there, and they can see what talks, what I love to give talks. I have been teaching in a German academy also. I've teaching how you work with science, but also self-management and change and all these kind of things. So I love to give talks, I love to give workshops, and yeah, the latest project is my Wildfulness retreat, which I also would love to bring into other countries. And in the Wildfulness retreat, I connect people to their inner nature, to their true inner nature, and to outer nature.
So good. I mean,
Sign
I want to
up. You know, here's the thing you need to know, Wiebke. We have people come on, and every time Christina and I are like, yes, okay, I want
play. Yeah.
Well, Anne and I, and Chateau and I, we would love to bring the Wildfulness retreat to Scotland. It's just an idea so far, but if somebody owns a resort with a sauna in Scotland, close to a loch, a lake, or the sea, where we can bring people into cold dips and breathwork and everything, and help them also warm up afterwards, we would love to bring that to Scotland and also to other regions in the world.
Fantastic. I'm going to put my thinking cap on too. Yes. I've had so much fun today playing with you, Wiebke. Thank you so much for joining us and imparting your knowledge with all our listeners. Thank you for being here. Thank you everyone for listening. If you loved what you heard today, please leave us a review. Please share with your friends. And always remember, you are extraordinary and you rock. Until next time, have a wonderful day. Martina?
Bye for now. Bye.
Bye, you all. And I can just confirm, please, if you have an intuition to send this to someone, they might need it. Your intuition is probably right.